You are tuned to ARP on the Accelerated Radio Network. It's 12 noon, and it's time to have lunch. Lunch with the Finance Bunch. Lunch with the Finance Bunch. Lunch with the Finance Bunch. Bringing money talk you can understand. And now here's your host, Miss Charliine.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Miss Charliine, and you're having lunch with the Finance Bunch. Today in our studio, we have a wonderful lady that I had the opportunity of speaking with and getting to know a little bit, and she has an awesome business, and I want you guys to hear all about it and the reason she started her business I find heartwarming. So I'd like to introduce Cindy, and Cindy has a business called Everyday Gourmet in LA. How you doing, Cindy?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing just fine.
Good.
Now, Cindy, Everyday Gourmet in LA, what does that mean? What type of business are you?
I am a personal cook business. I do personal cooking, small wine tasting events, sometimes cooking classes. I like to grab any new opportunity that comes my way, so I don't define it too tightly, but I am a personal cook. That's the main thrust of the business.
Wow. Now, as we spoke, I wanted this to get out there. So what made you start your business?
Well, I wanted to do something that I love doing, that makes me happy to do every day and get up and smile about it. I wanted something with flexibility. I had, at the time, way back, I had a young son who's now 14, but I had a young son who I wanted to have time with and be able to be there for all the firsts and not miss any of that. So I really wanted to do something that was going to give me flexibility. And also for him to see a mom that was happy doing what she loves. I think that's an important lesson, too, to show our kids. So I thought about what I love, and I have always loved cooking, and I've also always loved wine. So I decided to sort of try to parlay this into a business and see if it would fly. And that's where it started.
So when you started your business, how did you start out? Did you start with friends and family, or did you just jump right out into the marketplace?
No, I started with friends and family. I really believe in test marketing with friends first.
Right.
I know we talked about this on the phone. I did some wine tasting parties with my friends, small gatherings, and I handed them all index cards and told me to critique me. And, ask them questions about, what could I improve on? What do you like about the food? What don't you like? What would you like to see? What colors are talking to you? All of the aesthetics and tastes and things that people go out in restaurants and look for that attract them. I wanted to bring that to the table, but in an intimate setting. And I wanted them to really be honest with me about, what I could improve on and how I could do that.
That's amazing because, something as simple as starting with your family and friends and, to critique your business before you present it to the rest of the world. Sometimes we don't think of things that simple. Like we cook for people on an ongoing basis. We may sit and have a glass of wine. One may know more about wine than the other. And, thus your business really began, because you knew a little bit more about wine than maybe some others. And then, and you enjoy cooking a little bit more than some others. So bringing that together so you could have more time with your son, who I met today, is a great homage to motherhood and the ability to be a mother and a businesswoman.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And so I wanted to find out from you, first of all, how long have you been in business?
Total about 9 years now, but the business changed. I started off as a company called Better with Wine. Did that for about 7.5 years about now. And had to sort of reassess because of the current financial state of affairs right now. And about 1.5 years ago, I thought, I love wine. I'll always love wine. Wine is still an extra for people.
Right.
It's a need, not a want. I mean, it's a want, not a need.
Yes.
So I reassessed and thought, how can I readjust my business for the current financial climate?
Right.
And I decided cooking would probably be a better way to go, while still maintaining the wine part. So I started doing some thinking about how I could become a personal cook. And it started off with doing some classes for moms in play places, like Pamper and Play in West LA and places like that, where they have, places where the kids can be watched,
right,
and the moms can go off and have a little class, which is good.
Yeah, so. I like that because we talked about this too, there are no home economics classes anymore in school.
Right.
And I mean, that was my first real introduction to cooking, was in that classroom with the teacher in a controlled environment, right? And so they don't have those classes anymore. So a lot of women, you know, if they don't learn from a mother or father how to cook, they're just kind of trial and error. So to have a class like that available, you know, it makes cooking less intimidating, I would think.
Absolutely. And I'm really the non-intimidating chef. I've always been that way with anything that I do, and I really want to bring that to people. And I've had a lot of my clients comment on saying almost exactly that same thing. You take the intimidation out of it, which makes me feel great. Because
they're in an intimate atmosphere where they can ask questions.
Right.
And, you know, do they get a little bit of hands-on too?
They do. I always let my clients have hands-on. Some people do prefer, you know, we all learn different.
Right.
Some people do prefer to hang back and make notes and kind of watch. But I really do.
That's me.
Okay. We're going to get you in there, though. But I really like people getting their hands in there, you know, and really touching the food and really working with it and, you know, learning how to smash some garlic and pound some meat and stuff like that. It gets your aggressions out, and it's really good therapy for me, too. And it's fun, you know, if you really get into it, and being able to prepare a meal for your family is a great feeling that you did that yourself and put it on the table. So.
Especially some things that may not be traditional to, you know, your home environment, you know, to try some things outside of maybe your culture or what you're accustomed to cooking as a family. So I can see that. I know I cook a little bit, not as much as I used to. And, you know, to learn some different types of food to add to the menu that I already have would be great. And so I'm sure most people are like that. They want to learn something new, you know, and it may be something, you know, old for you, but it'd be new for someone else who hasn't maybe tried that, you know, like especially different ethnic foods and things like that. So now, who is your target market?
My target market thus far has been busy parents. Mostly.
Yes.
You know, we live in a time now where people are just trying to hold it down. You know, they're working jobs and kids are being shuffled back and forth through activities, and really just the simple act of trying to get people together at the table is not so easy anymore.
That's very true.
And I'm a big believer in getting people back to the family table. If nothing else, if you have that hour with your kid, not even, you know, what you can get, but if you can have an hour at night to talk about your day and bond with your kids over a great meal. Also, cooking with your kids is a really great thing to do.
Yes.
Because it gets them in on being part of that part of the family and gets them into learning skills that are lifelong. Like you said earlier, you know, we don't have home ec anymore.
Right.
So you're teaching them skills that they're going to use forever.
And it teaches them to appreciate what you do for them, because sometimes you take it for granted. You know, I'd come home and my mom, the whole meal will be prepared. So you just literally come in, wash your hands, and go in and, you know, maybe you're doing your homework while mom's preparing the meal or whatever, and you just go sit down, eat, get up from the table. Someone might have, you know, dish duty, but you know, as far as preparing the meal, you know, sometimes we just think it magically shows up more kids. So to get the kids more involved is a great way of, like you said, getting them introduced to the fact that you have to cook to eat, and you don't necessarily want to always wind up at a fast food restaurant or something like that, because, you know, we've seen now how unhealthy that can be by the obesity rate here in America, and the fact that most of us don't eat vegetables, don't eat the things that are really good for us. So that's a great way of introducing those things.
Yeah,
I commend you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, with your business, one of the things I think we talked about was the fact that you were able to modify your schedule so that you had more hands-on time with your son. And so how did you create that entity or that part of your business so that it was more tailored to your needs? Because sometimes as small business owners, we tend to, you know, run where the business is, and then it defeats the whole purpose. So how were you able to maintain that?
Right. I mean, that's a tricky one for a lot of people, that juggle thing. You know, I've really taken this in very small steps. I think it's more manageable for me to look at it. It can be overwhelming to think about all the things that I would have to do to make this happen. So what I did was I sort of made a list of, first of all, I made a financial list of how much money I need to make.
Okay.
And what it's going to take for me to be able to pay, you know, to afford to pay everything I need to pay, hopefully put something aside in savings and live a life where I'm not struggling so much. And I made a list of that, and then I broke it down into small steps, and also how much time I wanted to do that in. Is this a 40-hour position? Is it a 20-hour position? If it's going to be tailored around my son, when are those hours going to happen? And are those hours conducive to this business? Because a lot of my networking is done with networking meetings, which happen in the evening a lot of times. So looking at all those things, breaking it down into really small steps, and starting a couple of hours a week, literally, of just planning and making some phone calls and getting some touch bases with people.
Right.
Setting up, contacts, and then setting up meetings far enough in advance where I had childcare if I needed it, right? So I wasn't stressing about that, or he could stay after school. Right. Things like that. Just taking it a step at a time, and then one of the other things I did was I contacted the SBA, Small Business Association. Mm-hmm. They are a wonderful resource, and they are really good at helping you stay focused on what you're doing. They help you come up with a business plan and a mission statement and all those things that you really need to think about when you're going forward. They were really, really instrumental in helping me with a lot of stuff that you don't think about when there's so many details that it's really good to have somebody that's not personally invested as much and can take a step back and say, these are the things you need to do, that have a lot of experience. That was a really good step for me to take.
Right, I like that part, because a lot of times when people start their businesses, they don't consider all of the things that are involved in starting a business. And that's not to discourage anyone. It's just to say, make a list. And, don't start, off running, start off walking, And the Small Business Administration is a great place to start, because they will help you with all those details that you may or may not know that you need in starting a business. So that's a great place to start. And like you said, don't get ahead of yourself. Understand how much money is needed to be made, how much money you need to make, understand the hours that are involved, how is that going to impact your life and the time you spend with your children. So always, and I'm saying this for my audience, is like always keep in mind the original goal. What was the goal and purpose for the business you were starting? Because if you can't keep up with that, it kind of almost defeats the reason for the business, and you can become disenchanted. Right. And you don't want to become disenchanted. You want to, like you said, here we are, 9 years later, and you still love what you do. And that's commendable. There's, how many people can say that? Not everyone. That, I love what I do. Yes. And so adding that cooking to the palette. Now, okay, so let's say your target market is, families. Single women with children or a married couple with children. Everyone has a busy life. So how would you go about creating that business for yourself? Like, what do you do? So do you how did you meet me? Right? So if I'm a woman who has a husband and 2 small children, how do you meet me, and how do we engage, and how do we get this business plan going? Well, how do I become your client?
Most of my clients come from either referral or networking. Wow. That has really been my main thrust. I did the social media thing for a little bit. It really doesn't work for me. Okay. Only because this is a personal service. It's like, and it is a relationship. And if I'm going to be in someone's home, or I'm going to be making your food, that's a very personal thing. That's right. For people. And there has to be sort of a camaraderie and a relationship there to work with each other. So I like to meet my clients. I really think it's important that they meet me up front and get my philosophy, and I understand where they're coming from and what their needs are. And so that's really where it's come from. I tried a lot of things that didn't work. I think that's part of being in business too.
That's right.
And, ran the ads and did some things and did the social media, and I did a couple of events that didn't really pan out for me, that weren't the right audience. I think you have to figure out who your audience is. Right. So that was a lot of it too. So now networking, I do a lot of networking meetings, and I do a lot of referrals, and I try to give my clients incentive to refer me. Mm-hmm. Happily, everybody's pretty happy most of the time, so that's good.
That's really good.
That's really good.
Because yours is a referral, like you said, it's a referral-based business. So you have to make your clients happy so that they will refer you to their family and friends. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you have to, so you do a lot of networking. Mm-hmm. So that's key and important, because I think in most industries, especially when you are a small business owner, networking is very important. I did a segment on just that, networking, the things that you need to do to network, and that's one of my YouTubes that